Hello everyone, welcome to our Angular from Scratch series. So in the previous video, we have learned about the Angular components, and now in this video, we will be discussing about the Angular lifecycle hooks. So if you are new to my channel, then do subscribe so that you get all these videos on time. So let's move ahead and understand how many lifecycle hooks we have. So we have 8 lifecycle hooks in Angular, and we will be discussing them one by one, what is their use and when they get triggered. So the first one is ngOnChanges. This lifecycle hook gets executed before ngOnInit, and it always triggered whenever there is new change to any input property. So let's understand it with an example. So right now you can see if I refresh my page, there is no event console statement here. Now what I will do, I will implement all lifecycle hooks for my this first component. Okay, so what I need to do, I need to implement the interface called onChanges. Okay, this interface, all these interfaces are inside Angular code. Okay, once I have implemented this onChanges, it is asking me to implement the onChanges method. Okay, now for that I have to create this onChanges method, and this has one argument as simple changes object, which will provide me my current value, previous value, okay, like this, and I am printing it to console. If I now refresh, yeah, so you can see now it's printing the current value and previous value for my input property. Right now I have only one input property, data to child. So this is the input property that I created in my component. If I have more input property, then you will see all object inside it, inside this simple change object. Okay. For now, I have only one input property, so it is providing me data regarding that only. So currently, if you see, if you refresh it, you will notice that it is just providing me the current value, though there is no previous value, because there is no changes in this input property. The value is intact. Okay, now I will show you how these values are getting changed here. Okay, so for example, if I have one button in my parent component, okay, and what this parent button does is it's change the data, and it's change this variable value. Earlier the value is test data 1, which I am passing to my child. Now I'm changing it to test data 2 with the button click. Okay, and then I'm passing this value to my child through this input property. So don't worry, I'll be explaining about this communication, input, output, all these things in my coming videos. For now, you can understand that this input, this value is coming from the parent component with this input tag. Okay. Now, I have this change data button available now. You can see right now I have only the test data 1. Once I click on it, you will notice one more ngOnChanges event hook triggered, and it now contains the new value as test data 2 and the previous value is as data 1. So that's why it is used whenever there is change in our input properties, so that we can get those change values and perform our operation. So that's why this change hook is used. Okay, so the next one is ngOnInit. So ngOnInit runs after the onChanges hook. So this hook is very important. Like if you want to perform any API call, any variable initialization, anything like that you want to perform, so you can do it inside ngOnInit. So ngOnInit always execute only once when your application loads. So let me show you through example. Okay, so this is our app. Now simply for ngOnInit also you have to implement this interface on init, and then you have to write this ngOnInit method, and inside ngOnInit method you can write your logic of your app initialization. When your app is initializing for the first time, if you want to do any operation that needs to be done only once, then you have to perform it inside this ngOnInit. And if you refresh your browser, you will notice that first ngOnChanges is triggered and then ngOnInit is triggered only once. Even if I change the data, you will notice there is no ngOnInit again printed. So it runs only at the time of app load. So the next hook is ngDoCheck. This hook execute whenever there is any change in the application. The Angular change detection triggers, then this hook also gets triggered. It always runs after the ngOnInit hook. So let me show you with the example. Okay, so you have to implement it like this. You have to implement this interface doCheck and then the method ngDoCheck. And if you refresh the app, you will notice that this ngDoCheck first component is triggered, and it is triggered after the ngOnInit. Okay, ngOnInit and then ngDoCheck. Okay, now if there is any change, for example, I clicked on this button and this button changed the value of my input property. Now this ngDoCheck gets triggered again. So the next one is ngAfterContentInit. So this hook gets executed when any content is displayed or initialized basically on the ngContent tag. Okay, then this hook gets executed. Let me show you on the UI. Okay, so I have added this interface and I have written this method ngAfterContentInit. Okay, now from parent component, app component, I will add this tag, p tag, from where I'm just adding some content dynamically. This is projected from app component. Okay, and I want this content to be displayed to my child. So inside my child, okay, I will write ngContent somewhere, and wherever I will write this ngContent, this text from the parent will automatically gets added there. So if I go to the browser, okay, so you can see this is projected from app component gets printed here. And if you see on browser, ngAfterContentInit is also gets triggered. Okay, so that's how it's work. Okay, so the next one is ngAfterContentChecked. So this one is also similar to the previous one, where ngAfterContentInit gets triggered when the content is initialized, but this one gets triggered when there is any change on the content. Every time there is any change in that content tag, okay, the content is updated from parent. So this lifecycle hook will get triggered. Okay, so the next one is ngAfterViewInit. So this lifecycle hooks gets triggered when the whole DOM is created and all the view is complete, all the child components are also created completely, then this hook gets triggered. So if you want to perform any operation on your HTML, then you need to make sure that your HTML and its child components also gets created fully. So you can add the logic inside this hook for the execution, that once the DOM is created fully, then only this piece of code should work. So you can add it inside this ngAfterViewInit. The next one is ngAfterViewChecked. When the view is created, then ngAfterViewInit is triggered. But when in between, when the view gets changed, when you are using directive, you are using if and else condition to hide and show some part of your HTML UI, okay, then at that time this ngAfterViewChecked lifecycle hook gets triggered. After it completely checks that yeah, this is the change and it is complete, then this ngAfterViewCheck gets executed. And the last one is ngOnDestroy. This is very important lifecycle hook. This gets triggered when your component is destroying. Okay, when you are moving from one component to another component, so the previous component get destroyed in Angular, so then this hook gets triggered. So you can use this method for performing some cleanup activity like unsubscribing from your observables, cleaning your intervals, removing event listener, and all the cleaning process that you want to do, you can do inside this ngOnDestroy method. So let me show you all the methods and their order of execution. Okay, so this is my component. Let me uncomment all this. Okay, so I have added all these. Let me also use checked after view after content checked. Okay, what else? After view init, after view checked, and on destroy. Okay, so these are all the lifecycle hooks that I have created here. Now I'll show you on browser. So when you refresh your page, you notice ngOnChanges, ngOnInit, ngDoCheck, after ContentInit, then ContentCheck, then AfterViewInit, then ViewCheck. Oh, so I think this is triggered using this variable, and then after it, ngAfterContentCheck and the ngAfterViewCheck. Okay, so we have all these lifecycle hooks. We do not have ngOnDestroy here. This will get triggered only when this component gets destroyed. Okay, like when we move from one component to another component. That's why it's not printed here. So that was all about this video. So in the next video, we'll be discussing about the component communication, which is very important topic. So see you in the next video.